A company's procurement process is directly linked to its success, as it helps ensure the business has everything it needs for continuous functioning and stable growth. In the previous video, we discussed the general purpose of the procurement function and procurement basics. In this second video, we invite you to learn more about the specifics of the procurement process. We'll walk you through the process step by step and go over what procurement professionals have to do to obtain everything the business needs. Naturally, the procurement process varies across companies, depending on their size, structure, industry, or other unique factors. Once companies establish a standard process for employees to use, purchasing managers can also create different workflows depending on purchase urgency, product type, or supplier. Now, let's see what a typical procurement process looks like. Step 1. Identifying needs. In the simplest scenario, everything starts with an employee notifying their manager that they need an item for their job. The employee then issues a purchase requisition with a detailed description of the desired purchase. Typically, a department manager has to approve the purchase requisition. Once that has been done, the purchase can move to the next step: selecting suppliers. The procurement team researches the market and identifies potential vendors or suppliers to buy from. If the employee who initially made the request has a specific vendor in mind, they can mention this option to the procurement specialist. After that, the purchasing company evaluates the potential suppliers based on their reputation, capabilities, and pricing. Step 3. Issuing RFQs or RFPs. The procurement team then contacts supplier candidates regarding their intended purchase. Depending on the nature of the purchasing need, the buying company can make two types of inquiries. The first type is a request for quotation. The procurement team requests this if they know precisely what they need. In the request, they describe what they want and ask for the price of it. If it's not clear how exactly to fulfill the purchasing need, the procurement team can instead issue a request for proposal, in which they describe their need and ask the supplier to come up with a proposal to solve the issue. Step 4. Evaluating and selecting. Once the procurement team receives responses from potential suppliers, they compare the offers based on key factors, such as price, quality, delivery terms, reputation, and risk. Then they select the most suitable partner to buy from. Typically, they choose the supplier with the best price-quality balance and acceptable delivery terms. Step 5. Negotiating and contracting. After that, it's time to formalize these agreements into a contract. Procurement contracts are typically generated by the buyer's procurement and legal teams. In many cases, contracts require negotiations before all the conditions are satisfactory for both parties. Parties have to agree on the conditions of cooperation, such as price, quantity, delivery schedule, payment details, and return policies. Once the contract terms are decided, it's time to put them on paper and formalize them with a signature. Step 6. Ordering. Once both sides sign the contract, the procurement team issues a purchasing order. This is a document that contains the purchase date and essential information about the buyer, the seller, and the purchased goods or services, including the price and delivery details. The purchase order goes through the buying company's custom approval process and finally is sent to the selected supplier. Once the supplier confirms, it becomes a legally binding agreement between the ordering and the selling parties. Step 7. Receiving and inspecting. After the ordered materials are delivered, the quantity and quality are inspected. If a service was purchased, the receiving company examines whether the service was provided on time and in full. If the delivery doesn't meet the contracted terms, the procurement team notifies the supplier. Both parties must then agree on what to do next. Either the supplier corrects the mistake and provides the goods or services as agreed, or the buyer accepts a partial delivery and amends the initial purchase order. For instance, the price can be reduced if not enough items were received or of the right quality. When all the issues are solved and the goods inspection is finished, the buying company issues a delivery receipt. Step 8. Matching documents. Next, the accounts payable department matches the invoice and receipt to the purchase order in order to check for any discrepancies. This process is also known as three-way matching. Some companies also find it sufficient to leave out the receipt and conduct two-way matching instead, simply checking whether the invoice and purchase order match. Step 9. Paying. Finally, the accounts payable department gets the green light to pay the supplier. They follow the payment terms outlined in the documentation. Step 10. Keeping records. After the transaction is completed, procurement and accounts payable managers file the related documents for safekeeping. These documents include the purchase requisition and order, receipts, invoices, and of course, the contract. Keeping records is important, as it can help with information retrieval during tax season, for audit, or to settle possible disputes. Step 11. Analyzing. The final step of the typical procurement process is analysis. In this step, procurement managers reflect on the completed transaction and compare it against internal KPIs. Some companies set up standards against which the procurement manager evaluates each transaction. Purchase order cycle time is one such metric. Some metrics are observed in multiple transactions over time, for instance, for supplier compliance rate. Analyzing procurement KPIs is essential for understanding whether internal processes and contracted suppliers are efficient. For instance, doing this can help the buyer scout for better sellers. At the same time, if the contracted partners show good results, KPIs can be used to score better deals from them. Procurement is a process that every company needs to master for cost-efficient spending. Procurement professionals put a lot of effort into organizing every step of the procurement process in order for purchases to go quickly and smoothly. Book a demo with Procuro to see how you can do the same.